And we're here. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Sparring Partners Podcast presented by Film Fight Freaks. That's where you can find us. That's where you can find the previews we do and things of that nature. You can find us there, as well as on Anchor.fm, Google Podcasts, and Spotify. For all you people who would rather listen than watch. My name's Coby McKinley. On the other side is Brad Jones. How you doing, Brad? How you feeling?
I'm feeling good. Back at it. Back in business, baby.
Yeah, back at it indeed. And I'll tell you what, I like this shirt because it's comfortable. But the shirt I had on before is imagine a Brazilian flag as a t-shirt.
Okay.
We had two. I was gonna wear it as a theme because the latest fight night was a couple Brazilians.
Double Brazilian.
Do you think we should start wearing the? We should get a collection of shirts that are the country flags.
Okay.
Of the main event fighters. Yeah. Or the main event winner.
Yeah. Or the two people that are in the event. We each have one for each one of the guys.
But what if we both like the same guy?
We can't ever do that.
Oh, okay. Okay, sure. Fine. Well, so we enter this episode on a little bit of a slow week. A slow week for news. Slow week in general. Brad, take me through your thoughts going into this episode while I fix my camera.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you right now. Last weekend, while it was a short card, there were some exciting fights and finishes that happened on the prelims of the card. But the main card, man, did that thing drag. We did not have a good time watching the main card last weekend. It was rough goings until we got to that main event. But the main event was great. Main events brought it all home and saved it. But the rest of that card was rough. Arlovsky, Tanner Boser fight, rough, slow, boring ass fight. And yeah, looking ahead, we just yesterday we were in dire straits with one half of our main event for this coming weekend dropping out, and now the search and scramble had began on 5 days' notice to find a replacement. And luckily, right before we started filming this, the replacement was found. So we ended up slow news week, but we're gonna have some cool stuff to talk about.
Yeah, man. The Paul Felder thing just came out, and yeah, it's one of those things where those cards going in, and you don't see a lot of name value. It lowers the expectations, and usually we're blown away as a result. But yeah, that main card, man, that main card was particularly brutal. I mean, we're not old men, but I appreciate a card, especially not a fight night. And granted, every fight night for each one of these fighters is their own personal Super Bowl, but largely inconsequential fights as a whole. And UFC wants me to stay up past midnight? Come on, man.
That is one of the biggest factors. Is like we went through a stage when they were in the Fox era of having every fight card start at 10 p.m. for every event for like 3 or 4 years. It was awful. It was torture. Then we got the ESPN deal rocking. We switched it up a little bit. They were like, all right, cool, let's start doing some earlier start times. They're great. We all love them. For example, this coming weekend, the RDA and Felder fight. That main card starts at 7 p.m. That means the main event will be happening around 9:30 or 10. It can be over with, and you can still have a normal night. This last event, the main card starting at 10 p.m. was ridiculous. Like it went on forever. The fights were slow and they were boring. it just drags. I mean, we're over it. We're over the era of 10 p.m. fight cards. Let's quit doing that. I mean, I get that they put it on there because there wasn't a lot of drawing power and a lot of people weren't going to watch it. That just makes it even more off-putting. It's like, God, man, if I'm staying up that late, you really need to give us something to like bring it home because, thankfully, Glover and Teixeira, Glover Teixeira and Thiago Santos delivered. But yeah, it was rough goings of it. I'm excited for the earlier start times this coming weekend.
Yeah, man, and I think that dude, my camera's almost up. My camera is
going over there. You look like
I genuinely
or like an art piece or something.
I mean, I do want to blow that up and print it off and call it modern art. But yeah, I think that you put Arlovsky in our year 2020 as a co-main event. It's not going to storm you into a main. Arlovsky has perfected the art of doing just enough. Like, he's been around so long that, the co-main event's really supposed to prime you up, supposed to get you ready for the main event to come. And, I think Arlovsky's fight is kind of an encapsulation of how I felt watching the card, to be honest. I could kind of remember how I feel during that fight, and for most of the main card, that's kind of how I felt.
Yeah, I mean, in all honesty, Arlovsky was put there in that position to get murked by a young guy in Tanner Boser that's like, I think still in his late 20s or early 30s. And Tanner Boser proved that he is not on that level yet, because that seems to be the position they put Arlovsky in a lot recently. He went on like that skid where he got murked like 5 times in a row, but he was fighting like elite guy after elite guy. But yeah, they were like, let's match him up with some of these young cats and see what they got. And they usually blow him out, but he proved, hey, I'm a vet. I'm not going to get blasted away unless you got something to blast me with. And Tanner Boser did not have anything to blast him with. He just kind of looked flat and boring and lost a decision.
Yeah, man, it was. It's hard to fault a guy like Arlovsky for fighting the way he does now. He's obviously less durable than he was in the. I mean, he's turned back time on his chin, which is surprising, right?
Yeah.
But he can't have. No, I think I said to somebody, Arlovsky, my advice to him between rounds would be, you need a little less Brendan Schaub, a little more Mr. Ronda Rousey. That fight. God damn it, what's his name? Okay. Travis Brown.
Yeah.
And I just don't think that's what we're going to get anymore out of him ever. I like if he wins, I can put it more succinctly. If an Arlovsky fight becomes exciting, it's not good for Arlovsky.
No, of course not. He's getting beat up.
Well, let's see. All right. I'm going to look back through this card. I go to the old Tapology, right? And I said earlier there were some inconsequential bouts, not necessarily true. There were some good performances on the card. To throw out some honorable mentions, we got Trevin Giles and Bavon Lewis. Super fun fight. Really great finish as well. Xiaonan Yan taking on Claudia Gadelha. Really impressed. I didn't really, truth be told, I was not educated as to who Jonan Yan was heading into the fight night. Really, um, not someone who had perked my ears yet, and she certainly did on Saturday. She really what's the baseball term? She pitched a shutout.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, she did.
Yep, she did good. I had a little bit of prior knowledge about her. She was on my radar because she beat the hell out of Angela Hill, and then Angela Hill beat the hell out of Claudia Gadelha, which is why I fully expected her to beat the hell out of Claudia Gadelha, and she did. And the man is back on the visuals.
Yeah, for how long I'm not sure, but we'll see. In addition to that performance, Giga Chikadze looked awesome. Looked really great. Actually,
prospect.
Yeah, as we were watching the fights, I turned to you and I was like, man, he reminds me of Gegard Mousasi and the way how relaxed he is the whole time. And then out of nowhere came the head kick. It was phenomenal. It was really great. And he seems to be taller than like everyone in the division. I mean, every time he fights, I feel like there's a massive he's 6 foot, a featherweight.
Super lanky. He's a lanky guy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, 6 foot. That's massive for 145. That's really tall. So yeah, I mean, the last fight he had was that I remember seeing. Okay, so Omar Moran. They need to give him someone a little bit higher name value. Yeah, at this point.
Not about. What you think?
Really? Well, I mean, looking at it. Yeah, sure. I think that would be a good match for both. Let's see. What was it? There was one more. Oh, gonna have a tough time with this pronunciation, but the third fight from the top, a 35 scrap between Barcelos and Taha. That fight was awesome. That fight was so good. It was a friend of the show, Keith, was saying Barcelos was like a carbon copy of Aldo, and he's not wrong. I love that strong Brazilian Muay Thai. Super fun fight. But
I was on the verge of getting knocked out the entire time.
Yeah.
But he never did, but it was a really good fight.
And then Arlovsky and Bozer, I mean, we discussed that. It's that's how Arlovsky wins from here on out. You know,
he's gonna win. That's how it's gotta happen.
Yeah. And then the main event. Let's talk this main event, because more interesting than the main event itself really is we thought we had the light heavyweight division kind of mapped out before Saturday. It was pretty clear that Blachowicz is going to make his first defense against Adesanya, and it was announced. It was kind of a surprise. And now there's a little uncertainty after 41-year-old Glover Teixeira stops Thiago Santos, submits him. Was not how I expected that fight to go. How about yourself?
No, but it was one of the two ways I knew it could go. Going in, you knew either Glover was going to get a hold of him and take him down and do stuff to him on the ground, or Santos was going to light him up on the feet. And that's how it went. I mean, the whole fight was either Santos on the feet throwing nuclear bombs, or Glover grabbing a hold of him and taking him down. Glover, very wisely, over this last run of 5 fights in a row, it has gone super heavy into his grappling, because it does seem to be a lot better than most of the guys in that division. Like, if you'll remember his fight against John Jones, he never shot a single takedown against John Jones.
No.
It's become and he's tried to stand with people like, even though it's really quick, like Anthony Johnson, paid for it real fast. So recently, as he's gotten older, got knocked out a couple times, it seems like he's been, all right, I'm going in there, I'm taking these guys down, I'm going to mess them up on the floor. And hey, it's working. And he's made it now to the number one contender spot. And I mean, he could do that to Blachowicz. There's a total possibility that he could beat Blachowicz and become light heavyweight champion at like 41 years old, if they were to do that matchup.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of talking heads in MMA right now are really, that's what they'd like to see. That's what I would like to see, because I think Glover made a really great point after his win. Glover knows how old he is, and he said after the fight, Adesanya's young. I'm 41. I don't have time to wait, and he's right. I mean, the fact that he has just been able to help, show up to fight at 41 years old 5 times in a row without some catastrophic injury, right? Is miraculous in itself. So I think you got to do one for the old school and give Glover Teixeira the next crack. I mean, I that's what I think they should do. The UFC. Do I think that's what they're gonna do? Probably not. How about yourself?
Yeah, this whole thing's going to come down to timing. Ultimately, it's going to be a timing decision, because the word is that Blachowicz has said the earliest he is going to fight is March. He will not fight before March. And Izzy is wanting to go. He's ready to roll. He's saying no later than February is when he wants to fight. So that is why Blachowicz classified in his tweet afterwards, like, hey, if Izzy won't wait, then I'll fight you Santos in March, or Glover in March. So yeah, I think it's going to come down to a situation where the UFC goes to Izzy and they're like, yo, dog, you can either fight in January or February, and we do the Whitaker rematch, right? And then we'll also do Jan versus Glover in March, or chill for an extra month or two, and we'll go ahead and do the fight with Jan in March. But my problem is, if you do the Izzy Jan fight, that almost guarantees that Glover is not getting a title shot. It's just not going to happen. He's going to go the same way as Jacques Ray, because if Izzy wins it, there's no other person is going to fight for that belt for a long, long time. And then if Blachowicz wins it, then you're looking at him not turning around and defending it again till like summer, right? So you're talking about Glover not fighting for another 9 months. So it's a rough spot. I would lean, even though I have no interest in this Izzy and Whitaker 2 fight, I would rather they just do Izzy Whitaker 2, do the Glover fight, then we can rematch them up after that, because the timing for this whole thing doesn't work out with John Jones either, because then they're gonna do Stipe and Ngannou 2 in March. So just like do those 3 fights early in the year, and then later in the summer we can kind of work with what's afterwards and rearrange those parts a little bit, I feel like.
Yeah, man, it's too many possibilities, right?
Yeah.
That's what it is. It's you have the sport as a meritocracy, like, this guy beats this guy in the rankings, and then the top ranking gets the champion, all that. That is one thing that the UFC, I feel like the UFC relies on meritocracy out of convenience. Like when there's no real money fight to be had, they just, the title reign of Demetrius Johnson comes to mind, where they're just like, well, Ray Borg's the next guy.
Yeah.
Like, here he is. Wilson Reese. He's your guy. But in situations where there's a lot of cash to be made, they don't really worry about those rankings too much, or they change them. It's one or the other. They ignore them, or they flop some stuff around to make it more marketable. I feel like if you and I know our UFC, we know our Dana White. Glover, if Glover gets a title shot, it's not for Glover. It's because the UFC has gotten tired of trying to make Adesanya and Yan happen.
Yeah.
That's what it is. And I, for one, like I said earlier, I would like to see Glover get one more crack at the title. I mean, I think if he wins, he hasn't talked about this, he hasn't indicated it. But I mean, if you're Glover Teixeira, you get a title shot and you win, you're out. You're gone. Yeah. Like you're not sticking around. So I feel like, if you were to sit down Dana White and convince him to do the Glover Teixeira fight, I think that's how you may have to sell it to him. Like, hey, listen, Yan, Glover. Yan loses, Glover is probably going to retire, which leaves a vacant light heavyweight title, which then you could have Adesanya and Jones fight for. Right? That is the 4D chess of the situation. But yeah, I don't think Glover's getting the title shot, unfortunately.
Yeah.
No. Well, what else happened this week in the week of fights, Brad?
I'll give you a quick one that just dropped right before we started filming. So you'll recall that earlier, a couple months ago, they were trying to put together Dustin Poirier versus Tony Ferguson, right? Dustin's like, look, y'all, this amount of money you're paying me, it's not cutting it. I need more money. They're like, nah, it ain't happening. So that fight fell apart. Then something else, they're trying to make another fight with him. I don't remember who it was right now. It doesn't matter. Same issue, right? Money fell apart. So, boom, here we go. They're like, we're doing this Conor rematch, right? That fight is totally not signed, hasn't been signed, even though Dana said it was like weeks ago. They just said, they went to Dustin and they're like, all right, you're gonna fight Conor. We're still gonna pay you that same amount of money we've been offering you this whole time because it's your contract. And Dustin's like, yo, Conor of all people, y'all gotta pay me more than this. And they were like, here's the deal. You either take it or giving the fight to somebody else. So they've made their ultimatum. Does Dustin just go full cave and take the fight? You're not getting it. If it's in January, then you're not. There's no attendance. There's no gate. Do you do that, or do you strong arm them and then they throw Gaethje right in there against Conor or Tony Ferguson or anyone else that they have to pick from? What do you do?
Dude.
Also, this is not going to be for a belt. There's no belt involved here. This is just a lightweight fight.
Yeah, man. Again, yeah, Dustin is not. He is in no position, unfortunately, to negotiate.
Mm-hmm.
He is going to get left out. Like he's unfortunate. It's unfortunate because you would assume under normal circumstances, you fight McGregor, you make more money. That's just that's how it's always been. I would imagine that when Poirier fought McGregor the first time, McGregor was already popular enough to where Poirier got a bump in pay. Like, the UFC is really, during this pandemic, they're the lack of fighter pay or whatever percentage of fighter pay Um, the UFC is really like I would not be surprised if the UFC is paying or doing everything they can to keep that percentage the same. And
Yeah.
that's what this is about, man. This is what
Yeah.
it's about. The bean counter is determined like we set aside, this percentage for fighter pay. Well, now we're taking in this much less. So now we need to keep their percentage at a certain amount. It's yeah, Poirier, I would hope takes the fight. I would really hope takes the fight because um, if he wins and he has a pretty solid shot, he's a different fighter than the first time McGregor and him locked up. Um, if he takes the fight, it is the potential for more money. If you beat McGregor, you are superstar status. So you may look at it as a hidden benefit, not so hidden, but no, a non-monetary benefit. But yeah, man, I don't know. Poirier should take the fight. That's rambled on, but that's how I feel.
Think about the situation they ended up in. The UFC during this whole pandemic year for 9 months had Conor McGregor begging them to fight. He was like, I want to fight. I just want to fight anyone. I don't care that there's no crowd. Just let me go in the Apex and fight someone. And the UFC, with him saying that, was like, no, we're not going to let you fight here until we can make more money off of you because we need a gate and we need crowds. And it took him going through all the bullshit about being, I'm going to go box and I'm going to go do a charity boxing fight for them to finally be like, all right, fine. You can come fight in the Apex and we'll sell 2 million pay-per-views. Fine. This is what you want. They're not happy about it, but it's like, okay, we'll do it.
Yeah. Do you think Poirier takes the fight? Do you think he gets signed?
I think he does. I think in the end, Poirier takes the fight. Even you remember, even Donald Cerrone did an interview a while after his Conor fight. And he was like, "You guys think that like just because you fight Conor, you make like an extra $1 million or something?" He was like, "I didn't make like hardly any money for fighting Conor as much as people would think." And he was like, like I didn't get a crazy bump in my contract or anything. Like it wasn't that wild. And I was like, yeah, I feel like it is because not everyone's going to get a crazy rub off of fighting Conor like Nate or Khabib did. Like it's just how it goes. Some people just get like murked, and like the Eddie Alvarez's, and they just you don't get any kind of shine.
Yeah, we all recall Diego Brandao getting mobbed in the streets of Rio de Janeiro following his bout with Conor McGregor. Yeah, man, that's and as far as breaking news, it's not quite breaking news. But actually, you know what? I was going to transition into next week's card, but we had discussed before the show got going that in a moderately slow news week, we have to fall back on Bellator.
What's Bellator got to offer us this week? Their Thursday night fight cards.
Right. I'm not previewing anything. I just wanted to cover something that was newsworthy. It was newsworthy.
I watched it. I actually watched the Bellator card on Thursday. It drove my interest.
I did as well. I didn't watch the whole card. I watched the main event.
That's all that matters.
Sue me. So we had Corey Anderson making his Bellator debut. This is his first fight back since getting stopped by the now champion, Jan Blachowicz.
Yep.
So he took on Melvin Manhoef in his Bellator debut, and as expected, he won. He won via TKO in the second round with some ground and pound that looked legitimately brutal. Corey Anderson did what Corey Anderson does with, I would say, a little bit more of an emphasis on finishing than typical. Usually when he goes the wrestling route, you just are like, okay, he's gonna do the Corey Anderson thing. He's gonna wrestle. He's gonna use some
You know what that is, right? You know why that is, right? He's been working with DC. Working with DC.
Well, I mean, it obviously worked, but Corey Anderson, when let's say his world ranking, let's not say UFC, world ranking after being stopped by Jan Blachowicz, where would you have put Corey Anderson? I know where I would have put Corey Anderson.
In the top 10, the lower top 10, the 7 to 10 range.
Same. And, Bellator keeps getting clowned on by what Scott Coker said about now that John Jones is a heavyweight, Bellator may have the best light heavyweight division in MMA. Corey Anderson, a top 10 light heavyweight in his promotional debut, got Melvin Manhoef. Melvin Manhoef is a legend in his own right. Phenomenal fighter. He's like 30-something and 15 in MMA alone. But we were talking about this on Saturday. Melvin Manhoef, hasn't fought in almost a year. He fought twice in 2019 against two men who don't have Wikipedia pages. Also, I looked them up on Tapology. They have about a third of the fights that the Manhoef does, if that. And his bouts before his two in 2019 were in 2016.
He's old. He's in his early 40s, like 43 or 44, right? I think he's 44.
I have it right here. So we have Melvin Manhoef versus Corey Anderson. He is 44 years, 5 months, 3 weeks, and 4 days old.
He's about as old as Anderson Silva.
Sure is.
Yeah.
Now, yeah, dude, just a roundabout way of saying light heavyweight at Bellator is a wasteland.
Let's see let's see how many light heavyweights in Bellator that I can name off the top of my head.
Okay, so
I'll tell you, right now they're all former UFC fighters. That's the reason I can name them.
No, well, the ones that you can name.
That's the only reason I can name them.
Yeah.
Okay, so Corey Anderson, Phil Davis, Ryan Bader, Nemkov, who isn't UFC but is their champion now. That's all I got. I can't. And then what's his name that just lost? 44-year-old man. Other than him, couldn't list you a single light heavyweight that they have.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. That's what yes. So I couldn't find a single Bellator light heavyweight ranking. No one does it.
Nah.
Tapology does, but half of the people in the top 5 either aren't light heavyweights anymore or they're retired. Chael Sonnen's in the top 10.
Chael's been retired for like a year and a half.
These are the men I can confirm are in the Bellator light heavyweight division.
Okay.
Alessio Sakara.
Okay.
Last fought in 2019 in a Bellator cage, and he took on a man who at the time was 8-7.
Mm.
Lyoto Machida recently lost by decision to the next man, Phil Davis.
Yeah, that's right.
Then you have Liam McGeary.
Oof, I forgot all about him.
The other mainstay, Linton Vassell.
Vassell, yeah. Yeah.
And then you have Nemkov. It's like, dude, who the hell is Phil Davis gonna fight? Like, I don't.
Phil Davis.
Not Phil Davis. Corey Anderson. Is he gonna fight Phil Davis?
No, Phil Davis is getting the title shot. They're gonna book Nemkov versus Phil Davis.
Well, that does make sense.
Phil Davis he's already fought Nemkov. It's a rematch. He already fought Nemkov.
Ah, okay.
And so they're going to book that. What's his name just said that? Ariel just said that.
Okay, so here, I don't know why these rankings are a top 12, but they are. It's on Tapology. So these rankings are voted on by the Tapology community. So I'll go through the top 10.
Okay.
Ryan Bader at number 1. Phil Davis at number 2. Nemkov, McGeary.
How's Nemkov number 3?
Dude, I'm telling you, it's
what?
I don't know what to tell you. This is Tapology.
Okay.
What I'm telling you is, this is, dude. We talk about it very often on this show that Bellator is doing something wrong. Tapology is a website, dude. Tapology, like, understand this. Tapology is a website that you're only going to go to if you're a hardcore MMA fan.
Yeah.
And also, you're only going to vote in the ranking if you are a further more hardcore subsection of that group. And they don't even know that Nemkov is the light heavyweight champion.
And those people, the hardest of hardcores, didn't even know to vote the champion as the number 1 guy in the division.
Yeah, number 5 again, just to like, in the top 5. Who's bringing in number 5?
I have no idea.
Muhammad Lawal.
Old retired King Mo.
Retired, doesn't fight anymore. Number 6 in the world, according to Tapology. Number 6, Melvin Manhoef. Followed by Alessio Sakara, followed by Chael Sonnen. Chael Sonnen is ranked above Corey Anderson.
Is he ranked above Machida?
Sure is. And then there's Jordan Young.
Okay, yeah.
And then coming in at number 12 is Kent Kalperinen. And you don't have to worry about him for this conversation because he's actually a middleweight.
Oh, great. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So yeah, Bellator's website doesn't have any sort of rankings, really anything like that. They just have a super unuseful page on their website called All Fighters. And it's just a page of all the fighters.
You want to see all the people we got at once?
Yeah. Bellator Light Heavyweight. So I go to mixed martial arts fighters, and yeah, dude. I'm gonna share. I'm gonna do a. I almost call us MMA brothers. I'm gonna do a Sparring Partners podcast first.
There we go.
And I am going to share my screen. If I can, there we go. Share. Yeah, I'm going to share the screen. Okay, so do you see what I'm seeing?
Yes.
Okay. So we have Juan Archuleta, you have the champions here. And then you just have a tab that says all fighters.
The top one is 1-1.
All. They're not sorted in any way. It's just all fighters.
Oof, man.
This is
5-4.
This is the least helpful.
7-7.
Dude, this is
0-0.
Yes.
1-0.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus Christ. So
this is the least useful database I I could cook up. Dude, they've got to do something different.
The champions aren't even in order, man.
No, and I'm not worried about that. What I'm worried about is the fact that, like, for someone like me, I want to start watching Bellator, right? I want to start doing Bellator breakdowns for the site, which is why I started looking into this stuff.
Yeah.
And for someone that wants to, like, get into Bellator, like ingratiate themselves with the rankings and who the individual fighters are or whatever, you're like, the simplest form of that is like just a ranking, or like,
yeah,
top five, or go to, like, you separate this into weight classes, top fighters per weight class, or like literally anything other than just a big infinite page of 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 seemingly photoshopped people that have records like 3-0 and 1-1.
Terrible records.
I mean, like, it's not, a lot. Some of them are just getting started, but I mean, really, it's a challenge to, like, try and get into Bellator as an organization, because, like I said, we only know like 4 or 5 dudes at light heavyweight, and the way that people are promoted and the information on their website, like, that's all you're ever going to be able to recall. Yeah, man, it's a bummer, because I think there are some really great fighters in Bellator. It's just they get lost in, for instance, Bellator right now is doing their featherweight Grand Prix, and there's some really great fighters in that Grand Prix. We have Pitbull fighting on Thursday. I'm down for a Pitbull fight. That's their champ. And then next week is Caldwell and Antonio McKee Jr., which I think that's a pretty good fight. Especially Antonio McKee is 16-0. And Darian Caldwell Caldwell has competed against some really legit dudes. Not that McKee hasn't, but McKee has been a little bit more on the side of, I don't want to say built, because the connotations with that are bad, but Bellator, I've found in the past, does a legitimately good job of bringing people up in general, building fighters in a way that boxers usually do, or like boxing usually does. Up to a certain point, they tend to linger on the cans. They tend to like Venom Page.
Yeah.
Where it's just like, how long are we going to have this guy do this before we just start treating him like so? What I meant to say was, McKee Jr. and Antonio McKee Jr., I think that's his full name. He has just gotten past that point in his career, and now he's fighting Darian Caldwell, and Darian Caldwell is moving up. It's a good fight. I'm excited for that fight. But I think we will move on to one last topic, an upcoming card that we got some thoughts on, not a ton of thoughts, but some, which is, it was Khabib protege versus Rafael dos Anjos on, like, it was the way I described it before was like a pop-up tent, like a fireworks, like a place they sell bottle rockets and M40s or whatever. They just show up one day. That's how this card kind of feels. Like, we still had fights TBD as of Saturday, and now it seems to be a complete card. What do you think about the card coming up on Saturday?
Honestly, I mean, I have no expectations of the card. I haven't even looked at any other names on the card besides the main event. Other than that, I know Mackenzie Dern is fighting. That's about it. But in all honesty, I've never really been sold on Khabib protege, but I feel like that's because the UFC never pushed him, because that one time they pushed him, he got murked. And so then they were like, all right, we're just going to like slow ball you forever. And so I was excited for them to finally be like, all right, here's a main event against a former champion. Like, let's actually see what you got. But in his absence, filling in Paul Felder in a still lightweight, still 5-round main event on 5 days' notice, honestly interests me much more than the previous fight did. I'm much more interested in a number 5 or 6 ranked Paul Felder. I think maybe 7 now if Oliveira's ahead of him, but like number 6 ranked guy versus RDA coming back to lightweight. That's way more exciting to me, honestly. So yeah, I'm really hyped about that fight. That fight's going to be really cool. I'm super pumped for that.
Yeah, dude. I looked into the card a little bit before we jumped on here. The main event obviously is one I'm super excited about. A surprise. It kind of, it showed up as quick as I felt the rest of the card did. And Felder, his first bout since February, although it feels like 1,000 years ago.
Yeah.
Rafael dos Anjos last fought. Felder last fought in February, and dos Anjos last fought in January of this year. Felder was not getting blown out by competition when he retired. He's 3-2 in his last 5. Dos Anjos, on the other hand, he is 1-4 in his last 5. He has that one.
But point out, he ran into the welterweight wrestler. He ran into the welterweight wrestler, and the welterweight wrestler's got a hold of him and wrestled the shit out of him. And he was like, You know what? I'm tired of getting wrestled at welterweight. I'm going back down to lightweight, and I'm fighting a striker in Paul Felder. So I am excited to see what he does in that situation. Kind of switch it up a little bit.
Yeah, man.
He had a rough time.
Yeah, he had about people talk about bad luck runs in the UFC, guys that'll get, this future contender, this future champion, all that. He had not, his looking at his losses. So he lost to Colby Covington, then Kamaru Usman. He turned back Kevin Lee, who was, Kevin Lee has gone back to lightweight, I believe, right?
Yes, he's already fought back at lightweight.
Yeah, that's what I thought. And so he won that one, which would make sense because, like we just said, he's a lightweight. Leon Edwards, who's number 4 in the world.
Yeah.
And then he lost to Michael Chiesa. So, he didn't. That's the thing about Dos Anjos is how dang durable the guy is. All of those are decisions. Are they all 5-round decisions?
Except for Chiesa.
Right. It's co-main event. Yeah, dude. And so I had a few things about this card other than the main event kind of stand out. And these are not going to be in a crazy amount of depth. Like the next one, the co-main event. Al Hassan and Williams. Look at those guys' records. Someone's going to get knocked out. That's it. That's my observation for that one. Is it looks tailor-made for a KO, and I'm down to watch it. Further down the card, Brendan Allen got rebooked. But this time against Sean Strickland, who literally just fought on Halloween. Yeah. I'm down. I'm down with that. Strickland looked awesome. We got Eric Anders. Corey McKenna. Contender Series vet. She was the little Welsh Irish woman.
Oh yeah.
I think she is Welsh. Yeah. So
Is
she gets
Mackenzie
her
Dern
first.
still on there somewhere?
What's that?
Is Dern still on there somewhere? Or is she
No,
gone?
no.
Dern's not.
I'll look down at the canceled bouts. No, she's not on this card. It may be on the next one. Random Marcos fights. She just seems to. I don't know. She got real weird there for a while, and now she just kind of shows up and gets armbarred.
Yeah.
Luis Smolka versus Quinones.
Oh,
I am down for that fight. That fight is super fun. Yeah. Jose Alberto Quinones. Yeah, Ashley Yoder, Rice McKee, Alex Moreno. Yeah, I mean the card's gonna be fine. It is. I actually looking at the names. Definitely you could give this the subtitle. You know, if they still did that, I think that this card, it would be fair to say like, like UFC Fight Night future champions or like something just to be like, listen, the undercard of this card, we're banking.
Prospect Mountain.
Yeah, Prospect Valley, which is not a bad thing per se. I'm not against it in principle. It's just you for cards like this, I think you really might need to be a wild man, just an MMA wild man to watch these, which we do. I watch them every. I don't know why we ever talk about I don't know why we ever talk about the quality of a card, because we are the dudes that just show up and watch.
Yeah, we're gonna watch it.
We're gonna watch it.
But I'll still, if it sucks, I'm still gonna complain about it afterwards.
Yeah, true. True. And yeah, let's see. Yeah, well, that's that. I mean, that's the card. It's a good card. I in the fights that I didn't know who people were, when I went and I clicked on them and I was like trying to get a sense of like how they fight or whatever. It's just loaded with people that like to put people to sleep with their bones. So I think it'll ultimately deliver some fun. Yeah, man. This we've been through a lot tonight. We had technical difficulties. We looked back at an aged fighter who's still in there, still relevant, and might just get a title shot. And then we moved on and we saw my art, my glitch art, which I might just snip out of the video and just blow up on my wall. We talked about the problems of Bellator, and then we talked about next week's card. Is there anything else that you wanna air out on the podcast before we get out of it?
Real quick, I just looked it up. I was wrong. It's Mackenzie Dern fights on pay-per-view UFC 256, and I know that because I was looking at that pay-per-view today to see how thin it is now that it lost its main event of Megan Anderson versus Amanda Nunes.
We didn't even talk about that.
Yeah, honestly.
Oh my God. Okay. Well, okay. I take all that back. Forget about everything I just said. We got to stay in here for just a little bit longer.
Yes. So Amanda Nunes is out of her main event against Megan Anderson for 256. They're going to reschedule that for early next year. So that leaves 256 with one title fight, which in my personal opinion should have been the main event and is the crown jewel of the entire card. And that is Peter Yan versus Aljamain Sterling. I am super hyped for that fight. I know a lot of people are like, yeah, whatever. I'm dumb hyped for that fight because that fight is like super legit. That's two dudes that are in their 20s and their absolute primes, and they're both totally polar opposites. Like Peter Yan's going to go out there and try to like murk him on the feet. And I mean, look how good Sandhagen is now coming off of that destruction of Marias. And I mean, Aljo literally just like cut through him in like 3 minutes, like hot butter. Like he could take Yan down on the ground and it could get real nasty. So that I'm still hyped for that pay-per-view. That Megan Anderson and Amanda Nunes falling off doesn't hurt my hype in any way. For that fight, I'm super hyped for that. How you feeling about it?
I'm very excited about that fight. I don't know how anyone could call themselves a fight fan and not be excited for Yan and Sterling. It's the no-brainer. It is the bantamweight division right now, at the very least, a matchup like this, it is the division working how it should. I mean, Aljo is the clear number 2 guy, and Yan is the clear number 1 guy. I don't know what else you want out of a title bout. And like you said, they're both polar opposites. I mean, yeah, obviously they're both mixed martial artists. They can do all of it at a world class level. But man, both present some really good questions for one another. And looking at the rest of the card looks not that weak. As you look down into it, it looks weak on a surface level. But again, when you're dudes like you and I, and we'll kind of just tune in to whatever violence happens to be on ESPN Plus, this card is pretty dang good thus far. So not the bottom. I mean, I don't know.
That one's still like 6 weeks out, so they can still add stuff to that one.
Dude, yeah, Ticia Torres, Angela Hill, Dwight
Bryant, the rematch too. Yeah.
Versus Jinglian Lee. That dude slugs. And then you have Dern taking on Verna Jandaroba, who is a phenomenal Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt as well. Her last 2 wins were submissions. Dos Santos versus Cyril Gane. They're pushing the hell out of Gane, but this is if you want to showcase Cyril Gane, Dos Santos is pretty much due to do it, because even
realistically, that's probably your new co-main event, right?
No, because one more fight up, you have Marvin Vettori and Jacare Souza.
Are you going to put that over the heavyweights on a pay-per-view though, in a co-main event? I think Cyril Gane gets pushed super fast into a fight against a former champion at heavyweight in the co-main event of a pay-per-view, the year-ending pay-per-view.
Okay, I mean, like I still think, Souza's still real to me. Goddamn it, he's still a dude that deserves a pretty high spot on the card. And
this is Jacare coming back to middleweight after losing to Yan at light heavyweight too. So he's been out for like a year and a half at this point.
Yeah, and then dude, Chase Cooper comes back against Peter Barrett. I mean, it's
we'll get card there. We'll preview that card.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the recent news. Just recently drew our attention to it, but yeah, man, that card is still totally worthwhile. Nothing against Nunes or Anderson. I want to see that fight. I really want to see that fight. Because really, I mean, I think Nunes is doing what I think a lot of people wish champs would do.
Oh, you mean actually defend both belts when they take up 2 divisions?
It's really something to see, because I don't think. I mean, she's so dominant that I don't think it makes a difference which one she fights at. I mean, people still feel the exact same.
Neither division can even generate number one contenders because she's murked them so badly. 135, she's having to go defend against made up 145 contenders because 135 can't even produce a number one contender. They're like, all right, let's get this chick to beat Holly Holm and then she'll be next. No, can't beat Holly Holm. Well, Holly Holm just got murked by Nunes, so what are we gonna do? Like, it's crazy. She's just completely obliterated those two divisions.
Yeah. Well, I'm not going to do the whole recap again, but just
tack it on.
We talked about a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Right. And I already asked you if there was anything else that came to mind, and then you got us on this.
There we go.
Now I ask, are you holding out on me? Is there absolutely anything else you want to discuss before we get out of here?
Nah, we good. We covered it all.
Yeah, we covered it all. Yeah, man. I don't know. I don't know what was going on with my camera earlier. I haven't been watching my camera, so I assume it just has kept doing me wrong. Hopefully it hasn't. But if you're on the audio side of things, I guess it doesn't really matter. But yeah, well, I think that's it for us this week's Sparring Partners. As always, I'm Coby McKinley. That's Brad Jones. You can find us at Sparring Partners Pod on Instagram. Like, subscribe, and if you don't want to watch the video, you really messed up because you made it all the way to the end. But for next time, you could have listened on Google Podcasts, on Anchor.fm, or Spotify. Spotify being the most, probably the most common. But yeah, if you guys have any questions, comments, concerns for next week, reach out either on Anchor through the voicemail or send us an email or comment down below if you're seeing this on YouTube or filmfightfreaks.com. Yeah, see you guys next week.
Yep, later. Next week.